Hello friends, welcome back to 9 Little Aussies. I am in my house and it's a quiet evening. Almost everyone else is in bed except one of my big boys who's up studying because he likes to do it when the house is nice and quiet. And I am sitting down with my cup of tea and a little bit of my favorite chucky. And I am going to make some tinctures. And this has sort of been pushed along, spurred along by a little bit of a situation that I found myself in the last week, about a week ago now. So if you are new here, my name is Chrissy and my family and I are living on a little parcel of land here in East Texas where we are homesteading. And one of the things I have been wanting to do for a very long time is get into more growing herbal medicines and then learning how to take those herbs and put them into a form where our bodies can use them. And so I have slowly been learning about these things. I have been doing an online course through the School of Traditional Skills, which if you have been here very long, you've probably heard me mention before because I love them. We are lifetime members, which means we have access to all their courses, and we have done many of them and they have been so beneficial. They have two different herbal medicine courses on there. One is Herbal First Aid, which is the first one I did, and it was I have used it already multiple times. The knowledge that I gained in that course, so good. And the second one was the Herbal Cold and Flu remedies, and it too was excellent. So I have been, it's one of those things that has, been on my list. I need to do that. I need to go and get those herbs and make those tinctures and make those combinations and get that on the shelf happening. But it always gets put off because there's something else urgent that I need to do. So about a week ago, maybe a little bit more, like I said, the children, a few of them got a little bit of a head cold, which was no big deal. I had elderberry syrup and it was fine. But one of our children, actually two of the children, have sort of recurring respiratory issues. Nothing major, but about my daughter in particular, once or twice a year, will get a head cold that will go to her chest and she will get asthma-like symptoms. And it can be reasonably severe. In Australia, we had a Ventolin puffer for when it got really bad. I do have a couple of those, which I brought with me. But last week, in the middle of the night, it's always worse in the middle of the night, the Ventolin just was not cutting it. And I was a little bit concerned. So I was able to, through a couple of friends that I know, I found and got onto a herbalist and a lady here in the area who makes herbal medicines and tinctures and things from herbs. And I got this one from her, which is a respiratory tonic, and it is made with mullein and marshmallow root. And I was so grateful. We had to go for a little bit of a drive, but I did not mind. Actually, my 16-year-old got in the van and drove up there for me and picked it up and bought this from her. And the relief was instant, like instant. The puffer wasn't cutting it, and this made an instant difference. So that kind of just kicked my rear into gear, and I thought, I have got to get busy and get these things ready and on the shelf so that when I have that emergency situation, when I need them, they're ready to go. So I am telling you, it was such a relief when I was able to have this. And, and we've had this happen before. It's happened to her multiple times since she was little. When she was really tiny, it would be kind of a croupy cough and wheezy breathing. And it's still there. Not very often, just once or twice, maybe 3 times a year. But like this particular occasion was severe enough for me to start thinking, if I don't find a solution soon, we're going to have to figure out what it looks like to go to the ER in America, which I don't even know what that wasn't something I was really very excited about, given the medical system here and insurance and cost and all of that stuff. So I was like, oh, I have got to figure this out. And praise the Lord, this really, like, honestly, within 2 doses, there was a major turnaround. And so usually too, when this happens, she's really bad at night, and through the day it improves. Well, on this occasion, she woke up and all through the morning, it was not improving. It was not getting any better. And I thought, well, that doesn't usually happen either. That's odd. I need to really, to get something happening before I end up with another evening of the way it was. Then I discovered that, one of our boys has also had an ongoing respiratory issue, which is a little bit more odd. He has trouble getting a deep breath a lot, and if he gets worked up or runs a lot, but he doesn't wheeze, but he just will struggle with his breathing. And I've only recently discovered that it was a breathing issue, like a respiratory issue, because he kept saying his heart felt sore, or his heart felt funny, or his heart felt yucky, or his heart hurt sometimes, he would say. And this has been going on for years, and I had taken him to doctors in Australia and had him checked, and they were like, no, his heart's fine, there's nothing wrong with his heart. And you know, when little kids are ill, they sometimes have trouble articulating exactly what the symptoms are, and they can say one thing, and which is what I think happened, and I was thinking heart, when in fact it wasn't it at all. So we've recently discovered, no, this is a breath issue. This is a lung capacity and oxygen issue. So now this particular issue happens all different times of the day or night. But again, the other day when this it happened to him, and usually what I have been using with quite a lot of success is peppermint oil. Peppermint oil, you can rub it on your hands and then kind of breathe it in, and it opens the airways. Anyway, it just occurred to me after I'd had this really good success with my daughter, I thought, oh, I'm going to try that tincture with my little man. And so I did. I gave him this. He had I wonder if too, maybe just the atmosphere here and the humidity, and, you know, apparently there's a lot of bad pollen issues here. So a lot of people have severe allergies to that. So I'm not sure what it is, but both of them have been worse here than they were in Australia. So I thought, I'm going to try this. And again, I gave him 1 dose, and immediately he found relief, like faster and more relief than the peppermint oil was giving him. So I thought, this is so exciting. To me, that was so exciting, because this is an ongoing issue that we've been dealing with, and just so exciting to find something that is good and wholesome and good for them, and it works. So that's the backstory of why I'm doing this. So today, I now, long-term plan is I'm going to gather a lot more and do a lot more. But I thought, I'm just going to go ahead and do what I can with what I have on my shelf. So what I have this mullein herbs that I bought from a local health food store up at Nacogdoches. And I also have some echinacea, dried echinacea. So mullein leaf is really renowned for being good for respiratory issues. And this tincture that I got from my friend has mullein in it. It also has marshmallow root. Now, I don't have that today, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and make one with this. And the echinacea is very, very good for immune support, so I'm going to make one with that. Now, one of the things I discovered is that when I did the course, is that when it comes to making tinctures, there are two different methods that you can use. You can use a folk method, which is basically, this is just a jar I saved. You get the jar, you fill it with the herbs that you're wanting to make a tincture out of, and then you top it up, cover it up with vodka or any 80 or 100 proof alcohol. The alcohol it preserves it, but it also draws out all of the properties that are in the herbs that we want. And I found this really interesting. I just learned that with the 80 proof or the 100 proof, they're either 40% alcohol, or with the 100 proof is 50%, and the other 50% is water. So, for example, this one here that I have is 100 proof. Is this the 100 proof one? I think so. And which means it's 50% water and 50% alcohol. And some plants, some herbs are, and I forget the fancy term, but basically some plants will respond, that will repel water, and some will absorb it, and vice versa with the alcohol. So whatever herbs you're using, if you're using an 80 or 100 proof alcohol, no matter what the properties of the plant are, it has what it needs to be able to draw out the components of the herb that you want for its healing properties. So that's why that's important. So the other method for making tinctures is a ratio method, which is a bit more accurate. So the folk method, just grab a jar, fill it with herbs, top it up with vodka or whatever alcohol you have, and then sit it on the shelf for 3 or 4 weeks, shake it every week, and you're good to go, is the method our grandmas have been using for centuries, right? But then there's the ratio method, which is slightly just more, I guess, it will give you a more uniform or dependable, or what's the word, predictable outcome. So either which way it works. So I'm going to do both ways. I have my little kitchen scales. Basically, the ratio method is you measure, we'll put one of whatever herb you're using in a blender and make a powder, and then you do, it's a 1:5 ratio. So if it's 20 grams, I'll measure it on the scales, 20 grams of echinacea, then I would put 100 grams of vodka, so that you're keeping that ratio. Whereas the folk method is just fill it up, top her up, and sit her on the shelf. So they both work. So we're gonna have a go at both of them. Okie dokes. So we have our herbs. I've got my little jars here. I also saved these little ones because when you go to store the herbs, you want to store them in an amber bottle because light can impact on the quality and the purity of the result. But these had yeast in them, active dry yeast, and I've saved them because they're amber. I may do a little bit of something in those. This is an old honey jar. This is just an old black passata, spaghetti sauce jar. So I'll go ahead with this one, and I'll make this one mullein. I can open it. Actually, I thought it'd be tricky and use this funnel, but it doesn't quite fit in the bottle. So I don't know if that's going to be better or worse. So I'm just going to put, so this is the mullein leaf. I'm just going to put it in here and kind of fill it up. Not to the tippy top, but whoops, actually to the tippy top. Didn't mean to do that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and glug, glug, glug. This is going to slowly soak up all of that mullein. I wonder if I should have put a little bit less than that actually. I'm going to try and poke it down with a spoon. Okay, so right, I guess that's what we do. Push that down. Okay, so put the lid on, and I'm just going to stick that on the shelf. Now it is clear, but I'm going to keep it inside the pantry cupboard, so that'll be a dark spot away from the light. Okay, and this one we will do an echinacea one. Alright, that mullein was really dusty and it's making me sneeze. So I'm going to put a bit less in this because I don't have as much. Spill it either. And we're going to go ahead and cover that one with the vodka. Okay. So then I'm just going to label these so I remember what's what. It's got a bit of blue tape. This is not going to be the final storage bottle. This is just for, now this is echinacea. And today is, what is the date today? We're in August. Oh, it's the 28th, I think. So that I will know when it's been in there for long enough. So nothing fancy, but it'll let me know what the story is. Okay. So that was pretty easy, hey? So we've got our echinacea folk method tincture ready to go, and our mullein. Now I am wondering about this one. Having filled it up that much, I may need to separate that into 2 jars as it absorbs. And I'm actually tempted to go ahead and do that now because I'm not sure how much that's going to absorb. Whereas because I used less in this jar, I was able to go above, like quite a bit above it, and it'll have plenty to absorb. Anyway, I'll have to keep an eye on it, and I may need to do that. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is the ratio method with a little jar, and I'm going to, let me see if I can show you this a bit more clearly. Okay, so I've put it on grams, and I've put that on there, and I'm resetting it to 0. And I'm going to measure 20 grams. This is so dusty. It made me sneeze. Let's see how much 20 grams is. Ooh, whoops. All right, so that's 20 grams. It's quite light. So I'm actually going to, now I guess I could just, having measured that, measure the 100 grams of vodka and add that in. but I'm going to try and put it in the blender and make it to a powder because it will absorb more evenly and just a little bit better that way. So I've just come over to the kitchen. I actually have a batch of elderberry going as well, which is just cooling down a bit, so, and I'll strain it. But I did actually put some echinacea in that this time as well, which was a suggestion that the lady that made the tincture suggested. She does that with her elderberry, is adds some echinacea in with the elderberry syrup. So I haven't tried that before, but I'm doing that this time. And I'm just going to I hope this blender does the trick. I'm gonna stick that in there. Right, let's see. Okay, well, it hasn't made a super fine powder, and I've been doing it for a bit. So maybe that's as good as this blender's gonna get. It's not a Thermomix, but it's it has made it a bit finer than it was. Now, Doc Jones, who teaches the Herbal course on the School of Traditional Skills, says he puts his herbs into a powder at his store using a Vitamix, which is just like a big blender. So now maybe my blender's just not quite as powerful as a Vitamix, but it did, I feel like that did, let me do a comparison. So yeah, that is, when I look at it, what it was in the packet compared to what it is now, it's definitely made it more powderish, if that's the word, but it's not like a full-on powder, so that'll be okay. So we're going to pop it back here on the scales. I'll zero it out again, and now we need 100 grams of the vodka, which of course is a lot heavier than the powder. Whoop. Now that is interesting. I might have to, I'm going to have to add more vodka than the 100 grams, which means we will end up with a ratio that is not 1:5, because this has dried up. It's absorbed it all already, which now the other really cool benefit that I have used multiple times, sorry, that mullein has gone up my nose. The other really cool benefit of the School of Traditional Skills is there is a online community that is part of it, and it's like a forum. It's set up kind of like a you know, a social media app where that you can make comments, you can post things, you can ask questions, which I have done many times, and the community on there is fantastic, and you will just about always get someone who's able to make a suggestion or offer some kind of help. So the troubleshooting I'm going to need to do is with a 1:5 ratio, when your powder is not super powdery, it's drying up. So because, you know, I've done these online courses, but I am still a beginner. I'm learning this stuff. I have not done a lot of this at all. So we're learning as we go. So I'm going to go ahead for now. I will ask on there, but I'm going to go ahead for now and top it up so it covers the herbs. So we've got the mullein and the echinacea, which I made with the folk method. And then I've got this little mullein, which I attempted to make with the ratio method, but it didn't work so great. So it's still going to be, I would say, a higher ratio than the folk method. But as you saw, there was like it was too dry. So I will have to ask questions about that and figure out the best way to solve that problem. So I will see about that. Okay, so I'm going to clean that up. And the idea is that these will sit on the shelf and I will go in there every few days or at least once a week and give them a shake and a jiggle. And make sure, like I said, they're going to be stored in the pantry so that there's minimal light, because we don't want light that can damage the properties of the herbs as well. So we don't want that. So we'll shake that up once a week or whatever. And then in a few weeks when it's ready, I will strain it out and store it in. I just ordered these bottles online, these little amber bottles. I just got them on Amazon. So I'll store it in those because again, that will keep light from entering the bottle. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So apparently you don't have to strain it off. Like I could just put it in a bottle or keep it in the cupboard out of the light and then just get it out and use it when I need it. Apparently the Chinese who first came up with this, I believe, they never strained theirs. So you don't have to, but I think it will be easier from a storage point of view. Like all of the goodness will have been sucked out of all those herbs into the liquid. So straining it will just mean that I'm not storing as much bulk. I can store it more easily in a smaller bottle after I strain out all of the plant, which has already had all the goodness taken out of it anyway. Okay, well, I will keep you posted as to how that all goes. I will be watching those, monitoring them, and then, straining them off and putting them in these little bottles. And I will be continuing to sort of try and gather different ingredients and learn different recipes for some of the other little combinations. But I'm particularly interested in just having a few respiratory tinctures available. And I would like to be able to get, I'm going to try and get some marshmallow roots and talk to the lovely lady who made this and see if I can get some more information from her. Because I really feel like this is a skill set I want to have in my back pocket. And my next goal is then to be able to grow these. I do have some yarrow cuttings out there, and interestingly, I have the yarrow tincture. It came in when I did the Herbal First Aid course on the School of Traditional Skills. That was back when we first moved here. And so we've been life members from the inception of the School of Traditional Skills. So that was back when we were still living in Australia. But when we moved here, I decided to invest in there was a kit you could buy that matches, I guess, the Herbal First Aid course. And my long-term goal is to grow all these herbs. I think it's such a sustainable way of being able to grow your own medicine. I mean, I have used and I love essential oils, but I'm not going to be really able to make my own essential oils or, have them. That's something I'm always going to have to purchase. And that always bothered me a little, that it's not, something it's something where I'm reliant on another source all the time. So what I love about herbs is the more that I delve into this area, the more I find that they are incredibly effective. In some cases, as in my experience last week, more effective than the man-made versions of, like the Ventolin puffer, for example, was not near as effective as this tincture was for my daughter. So they're super effective, but I can grow them in my backyard, and then they're there every year for me to harvest and make more medicine from. So what a gift, what a wonderful thing. So I have yarrow in that herbal first aid kit, and I found that the yarrow tincture, I was using that a few months ago now. We all got a really nasty head cold. It was just, I don't know what it is, but there seem to just be some nasty bugs going around. Anyway, so we had this cough that we just couldn't shake, and the yarrow was phenomenal. But I've got this little bottle which is only going to last so long. But my beautiful friend Kathy, gave me some yarrow cuttings. So they're out there in pots and they're growing, and hopefully I'll be able to plant them out, and hopefully I won't kill them and they'll grow for me. But my plan is to grow more and more herbs like that and be able to then, have access to this medicine cabinet in my backyard. So that's the long-term plan. Alrighty, well, it is kind of late now, so I'm ready to put my little feeties up and my head on the pillow. So I'm going to go strain off my elderberry syrup and get it bottled and pack it all down for another day. But thanks for hanging out with me while I make my have my first go at making tinctures. How exciting. I love learning all these new skills, and I just feel like it's so empowering. It's so empowering to be able to create these things and then have them on the shelf for our family whenever we need it, and not be as reliant on other people, other systems, other ways that maybe we have become reliant on as a culture. So very exciting to be learning more about this and to have you guys along for the journey. So I will see you around on the next one, which I'm sure won't be too far away. Sunshine and raindrops to each one of you. Bye-bye.